Am I the antagonist for calling another dad neglectful? My wife and I have 5 children together. 14 years old male, 11 years old, male 9 years old, male 6 years old female, 3 years old male. Our oldest son attends a private school with the majority of the fees covered by a scholarship, and our youngest son attends a Montessori preschool. Our middle 3 children are homeschooled, mostly by my wife, but I teach a selection of classes. Through homeschooling, we have met many different types of homeschooling families. I have a strong belief that many of the parents I've met should not be homeschooling their children, or should at least be putting more effort in. There is one of these families in our homeschool group. They have 3 daughters, 10 years old, 8 years old, 6 years old, all far behind the other kids in the group. On a trip to the zoo, I was sitting and chatting with the dad of this family. Like in our home, his wife does most of the homeschooling. He mentioned about being worried for his eldest, who at 10 can still barely read. I suggested they hire a tutor to help get her up to speed. He told me his wife would be against that suggestion. As we talked more, he told me more about their approach to schooling. They follow the principles of unschooling. I'm personally not against some of the ideals of unschooling. Child-led learning has in some areas worked well for our kids, and I've seen several families successfully utilize the philosophy. However, what he described, in my opinion, was neglect. The kids aren't just leading the learning, they are essentially only taught what they are interested in with the occasional math language workbooks thrown in. I told him honestly what I thought, that what was happening was neglectful and risking his children's futures, that his role as a parent is to set up his children for success. I tried to strongly suggest to him that he should put his kids in school or quickly shift their homeschooling approach. He was pretty appalled regarding what I said, told me my kids are worked too hard, and their happiness and creativity would be stifled out. He suggested we see where both our kids are in 20 years. He asked what right I had to judge their approach and was privileged. His family is lower middle class, as is mine, and both of our wives are stay-at-home moms. My wife has a degree in elementary education and 2 master's degrees, one in educational psychology and another in liberal arts. She was a first-grade teacher for 5 years before our eldest was born. She's very well equipped to homeschool our children, she's very passionate, and has yielded good results. She spends 60 hours on homeschooling a week, including planning, and finds time to educate the kids separately for parts of their studies. I explained all of this to him, and it just reaffirmed that we were privileged, and added just because my wife has studied to be a teacher doesn't give her any more rights to teach than his wife. At this point, he was pretty angry and stormed off and made his wife and kids leave. My wife called me a jerk for what I said. Am I? Not the antagonist. He's lionizing his and his wife's incompetence, and their children are suffering the consequences. A child who can barely read at 10 will never catch up. You had a moral duty to speak up when you were informed of their neglect of their children, just as you would have had a duty to speak up if he had told you he was starving his children. Am I the antagonist for ignoring and refusing to do any favors for my foreign immigrant cousin? Over a year ago, my father brought over a cousin, Diana, from Haiti. She had been living there for about 20 years, unbeknownst to us, and my father decided to bring her over to attend school, since the political and economic state of the country is in shambles. From the very beginning of her arrival, she has caused mental and physical stress to the other residents, other than my father, of the household for a plethora of reasons. We live in a starter home that is not very big. It only has 3 rooms, one for me, Giselle, my sister, and one for my parents. With her arrival, Giselle was forcefully removed from her room in order to house Diana, and to this day Giselle sleeps on an air mattress in the living room. I voiced my displeasure with this to my parents, which fell on deaf ears, saying that it's Giselle's responsibility to give said room up as it will better socialize her. I call nonsense. I made to be the bad guy. Awesome. Over time, she began to break a lot of the rules that Giselle and I would be thoroughly reprimanded for when we were younger, and would be reprimanded for now if we started back up. Leaving mountains of dirty dishes, she cooks a lot, snack wrappers and trash all over the floors, turning the bathroom into a complete mess and not cleaning after herself, etc. She even put a giant hole in the wall of Giselle's former room, which to this day we have zero clue why she did this. Again, I voiced my displeasure, and again I made out to be the bad guy. Within this, you begin to think that it's supposed to be my parents I should be directing my anger to, which I am, but Diana understands this dynamic and uses it to her advantage. My mother eventually got tired of hearing my nagging, and gave her verbal warnings on multiple occasions about her behavior, to which she acknowledged, and then doubled down on her antics. Diana herself is plus-sized, and has the high tendency to eat other people's food without asking or prompting others. When I complained about this, I was met with, "Oh well, when you were 15 years old, you used to empty the fridge." I'm 23. I stopped doing that the instant they began to complain about it to me. A couple of weeks ago, I found out that she was using one of my favorite t-shirts as a wet rag to wipe the floor after she finished showering. I voiced my displeasure, and again I'm ignored. So in turn, I began to ignore her entirely. Diana asks for a ride somewhere. I say no. She asks for a favor. I say no. I don't acknowledge her presence in the household. I purposefully treat her as if she is a ghost. And then my parents tell me, "Mac, you're such a jerk." As someone who has to pay monthly to live in said household, I'd appreciate some normalcy. So with all this in mind, do you agree with them? Your parents and Diana suck, but your parents are actually the worst offenders, since their job should be to put their kids first, not a cousin. Next time they say, Mac, you're an tell them, yeah, you taught me well. You ignore the needs of your own children for someone who disrespects the whole household. If they try the but she's family thing, ask if they don't consider their own children family. They don't act like it the way they allow you to be treated. But I can guarantee someone at Haiti is paying your parents to house this brat. Caught my M32 wife, F28, posting on NSFW subreddits and sexting her exy. It is a sad day to be posting here again. This is my second marriage after a mess of a first, and the idea of being married now or ever is losing its appeal. Anyways, for context, I've been with my male 32, now wife, female 28, for 8 years. We have a toddler with a slight condition that makes raising him a little more difficult than it already would be. My wife stays at home since I make enough luckily, but this has led to her social network dwindling since she quit her job and had our child. We're at the point now though, where life isn't constantly cleaning bottles and midnight feedings, so we're getting more sleep at least, and feeling human again. We split chores and baby time to keep things fair too. Along the way I've been as supportive as I can by introducing her to my friends' wives, a few of my family members, and agreeing to watch our son at certain times just to give her time to go out and make friends. My wife hasn't been able to make any real friends, and she goes to therapy but hasn't been impressed by it. The last few months we seem to be fighting more often. She seemed checked out and is easily angered with me when things in general get stressful. When we fight, I communicate why I'm hurt by her when I didn't do anything wrong. Usually our son is stressing her out and she begins yelling at me since I'm the only one around. Well, after a few months of this we had a big heart-to-heart. It seemed really productive to where we even got a babysitter and went on a wonderful date the next day. We both raved about how much fun it was, like before we had a kid. She complained about how few friends she had still, and that it sucks because women make terrible friends, but guys only ever want sex. But this was just a light conversation on the way home. When we got home, I noticed her on Snapchat a lot, which we usually use when talking to our families. I saw a name I didn't recognize though, and of course you can see where this plot twist is going. I asked who she's messaging, thinking it was some uncle or something, but she lied. She said it was her brother, but clearly wasn't. So I followed up with no. Who's John Smith? And you'd think she just saw a murder, she froze so bad. The next few hours were the trickle truth playbook as is so common. But basically what I'd saw was her ending their long-distance affair with John. Ironically, she felt so good after our heart-to-heart that she was caught doing the right thing, if you can call it that. If she'd ghosted him or kept messaging him when I was asleep, I might have never caught it. So what happened exactly? John was an old friend with benefits from before we met. They never dated officially because she wasn't ready to settle down, so they just had sex and hung out back then. He reached back out to say hi after years of no contact, and she humored him because she was feeling lonely, in her words. She just liked having someone else to talk to at first when I was at work all day. However, she quickly made things sexual and sent nudes of herself. He of course reciprocated, as that's probably why he reached out in the first place. For 5 months, they'd alternate between innocent talking and sexting over Snapchat. This was usually short videos, a few pics, and dirty talking. E.g. I want to bend you over I bet that'd feel amazing. Soon that wasn't enough though, and she started posting on local not safe for work subreddits for more attention. She sexted maybe another dozen guys she met from there, mainly dirty talk and some nudes. This all went on for about 5 months to my knowledge. If you saw my previous posts, I have a low tolerance for cheating these days. My wife knew this. She said she did the minimal effort to get the attention excitement she wanted from them. So simple faceless nudes, selfies, videos playing with herself, some dirty talk, etc. So here's my predicament. I warned her that I have a zero-tolerance policy after my last marriage. She should have known better anyways, but especially after sharing that ordeal, I wouldn't have expected this from her. But my issue is that if I were to ever forgive it, this is basically the extent that I could. If it was physical, I definitely couldn't, and I know that. I love my son and loved my wife. But knowing that she's capable of this has killed me. Looking back on fond memories, especially any in the last 5 months, feel hollow or even tainted. Some nudes used lingerie that I bought her, which kills me. I don't want to break up this family, but staying together for the kids never works either. So my ask is, what would you do and how would you feel in my shoes? She's already switched therapists since she believes that was a factor. Her last never solved things, just let you vent, and offered to get rid of her smartphone to reduce temptation. She's been pretty open with me and answered my questions as well now. She seems to grasp the levity of it now, though if she didn't before I really wish she had, instead of thinking this was even sort of okay. Thoughts? TL Doctor caught my wife breaking it off with her long-distance affair partner and posting not safe for work on Reddit. I'm not sure I can get past sexting someone else when we're married with a child. The whole, it got physical, or at least it wasn't physical, is dumb. She cheated on you 100% the same as if it was physical. She made choices, she acted, she kept secrets, and she engaged in a sexual nature with other people the way she only should with you. The fact that she's capable and went that far, without remorse or enough guilt to come clean to me, says she doesn't really think she's doing something that wrong, and has created some mental gymnastics to try to blame you or problems in your relationship. To me, there's two things that determine the potential for reconciliation. First is, were they caught, or did they realize their mistake and confess? That latter being a green light for potential, only potential reconciliation. The second is response to the truth coming out. Did they try to explain it away, blame other things, try to dodge responsibility and accountability? Did they show regret for getting caught? Or, IDOWorkHereLady? Did they take full accountability? Did they show true remorse and could say all the ways they went wrong? Did they immediately move to show they recognize their faults and will go above and beyond to prove their desire to change and become better? While you didn't speak much to her reaction to getting caught, she didn't confess out of remorse, so no go on part 1. So she didn't take full accountability, responsibility, and show true remorse with a willing to prove it. Then reconciliation is probably a lost cause and it will happen again. You're in a bad predicament because if you're not a man of your word in regards to zero tolerance, she'll notice that, and it can happen again. This relationship is over. Am I the antagonist for warning my ex-stepfather not to give my sister money? I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. One sister, Jane, will come into play later on, but growing up she's always been a troublemaker, stealing, getting arrested, etc. Anyway, 20 years ago, my dad died and my mom remarried my stepfather, a man I'll call Robert, about a year later. Robert was wealthy, and throughout their marriage my mom also acquired a lot of wealth herself from investments and from a lawsuit. I won't go into deep details, but my dad died due to medical malpractice, and she received a good settlement, although the exact amount was never known to us kids. 10 years ago my mom died from cancer. She left all her wealth to my stepfather. My older sister and I just accepted this for what it was, as we preferred to have her alive than care about money. My other siblings were upset over this, but more so Jane. A year after that, Robert remarried and cut contact with all of us since his new wife didn't want him to stay in touch with us. While we were close to him, I can't say we were like a family. We cared for him and enjoyed his company, but none of us saw him as our father, more like a good friend. But we were still hurt over this, but accepted it and moved on. His new marriage didn't last, and Robert re-established contact with us all. We all talk and text him, but we aren't as close as before. I maybe talk to him twice a year now. Okay, now to the issue. Recently, Jane got arrested for a DUI and lost her license. She had a history of doing drugs and drinking a lot. Anyway, she asked for money from all of us to help with legal fees and rehab. My older sister and I gave over $1,000, but Jane reached out to Robert to get money off of him. From what I understand, Jane lied a lot to Robert to get as much money off of him as possible, like saying her ex drained her savings account, which wasn't true as she wasted that money. As she told me, he's rich, he can afford it. I don't know how much she got from him, but I heard it was a lot. Here is where I may be the I learned that Jane had wasted most of the money we all gave her on drugs. I was furious and refused to give her any more money, but Jane still was getting money from Robert. So I decided to contact Robert and told him not to give any more money to Jane as she was wasting it. He thanked me for warning him. Jane then contacted me, saying I was a horrible brother for betraying family and siding with a man who abandoned us and took all of Mom's money. She kept going on about he had plenty of money and she could use it right now. I told her it was wrong, and allowing her to trick Robert like that was enabling her bad behavior. She called me the again and hung up on me. My younger siblings say I am a jerk, and the for betraying my real family and should have minded my own business. They said he owned us and that he stole Mom's money. My older sister understands my position, but she is staying out of it. I feel guilty now, so I don't know if I did the right thing. So am I the not the antagonist for cutting off the source of your sister's drug money and warning R about her? Your sister needs to take responsibility for her actions, and R should pay for rehab directly if he wants to help. It's unfortunate that R may have taken your inheritance, but enabling your sister's addiction is not the solution. Am I the antagonist for telling my stepdad he is a terrible parent? I am the oldest of 7 kids. My mom has kidney cancer, and because of this I am usually helping with her daily tasks. My stepdad works an 8-4 shift Monday through Friday, and he is a maintenance worker for the church and school next to our house. I usually work nights to stay home during the day and watch my baby brother and keep an eye on my mom, drive her to appointments, etc. Before my mom got sick, she would clean the house, make dinner, housewife duties, and my stepdad never really needed to help with the kids because my mom would do everything. But now since I am doing everything I ask him for help, because it's a lot of kids and responsibilities for me, I really only ask for his help with the things I know he can do, like making the kids lunch, or changing my baby brother's diapers, telling my sisters to clean up after themselves, or helping them with homework. This past week has been especially difficult because it is my sister's 15th birthday on Tuesday, and I am in charge of planning her quinceañera. I asked my stepdad to watch the younger kids and to pick up the older kids from volleyball practice at 4, while I went to pick up the flowers and decorations in another city. I left at 3 because it was a long drive and my sister Nemo, 14, was coming with me so she couldn't watch them. It was 4:45-ish when the school called me asking when I would be picking the kids up. The older girls are 10 and 8 and were not allowed to walk home without a parent or guardian. Anyway, when I called my dad and asked why he didn't pick up the girls, he was drunk and slurring, "That's not my job, you should have picked them up." When I realized that he was drunk, he is a major alcoholic, I immediately dropped everything and sped over to the school. When I picked up my sisters, we went home and I freaked out on him. I yelled at him and said he was a terrible parent and that he is lucky that I got there before the school called Child Protective Services. After the argument, I immediately took the kids out to eat because I felt bad they heard me say that to him. I don't know if I should apologize or if I was in the right and should stand my ground. We have to cancel my sister's birthday party. My stepdad is out, and he has been out since Friday. I assume he is out drinking with his family and telling them I am a shitty person because my WhatsApp is flooded. He also said that he was going to stop paying for literally everything for me because he is not my real dad, so I am even less than his actual kids. I don't know what to do about finances for myself because everything is already so expensive. The reason I even have a job is to help with the bills because my mom's treatments are stupid expensive. I am so conflicted about everything and feel like I am being pressured into just giving up and being his servant at this point. Not the antagonist. Do not apologize. You are right, he is a bad parent. You have stepped up to become the parent of 6 children, a role you never asked for and never had a say in. Your father did have a role in producing those children and he is doing nothing. Although the thought of CPS is terrible, what will happen to your 6 siblings if your mother does not recover? Will you be able to continue to look after them on your own, as it seems like your father will not provide the home that you all need? Do you have any safety net in the family apart from your stepdad? Someone you can go to for help? I understand it is probably not the best time to tell your mom how your alcoholic excuse of a parent messed up, but maybe there's someone else who could help you out. Am I the antagonist for hiding my cousin's mobile phone after he threw water on my face when I was sleeping to wake me up? My 22-year-old female cousin, 14-year-old male, came to my house on the morning of the 7th. Today is the 10th. I had a class that day and had to drive 48 kilometers to go to my college. After I came back home, I took him out to have snacks and then we got a cake for him to celebrate his birthday, which was the next day. After that, I accompanied him to the arcade to play with him as he was going somewhere else the next day. The next day, his train was postponed to today, and now he got 2 extra days to spend here. On his birthday, 8th, we all fasted, except my grandfather and him, so we didn't go out to celebrate, but we had already done that in advance. But as he was all excited to do more things here, I promised to take him somewhere the next day, on the 9th, as I didn't have energy to even move. And I slept for 2 hours in the evening that day, so I didn't sleep for the whole night. Yesterday, on the 9th, I took him go-karting, which was again 25 kilometers away from home. And by the end of the day, my whole body was aching, and all I wanted was a good rest. I again slept late because no matter how tired I am, sleep doesn't come to me easily, and I just lay in bed for hours and still can't sleep. Now this morning I was sleeping, and all my other family members were up, and I woke up with a start when my cousin splashed water on my face. My mom even warned him before that I'm always grumpy if I don't get enough sleep. Despite me ignoring him for the first time and trying to get to sleep again as I thought it was just a one-time prank, and since he got what he wanted, he'll just leave me alone and let me sleep. But he didn't. He did that again, and this time, I was mad. I locked the door. I don't normally do that as no one enters my room without my consent, and saw his phone was charging in my room. I took his phone and put it on silent and hid it. He kept on banging my room's door asking me to open as he wants his phone back. I opened the door and said I've hidden his phone and now either he can search if he wants it back or brush his teeth and take a bath. Then I'll give him his phone back. His train was in 3 hours at this point, and he had been awake for more than 2 hours. He searched for a while and then went to the fridge to get some ice and said if I didn't have his phone back, he would throw those ice cubes on me. I took a bowl and filled it with water and splashed it on him as he threw ice on me. After that, he searched for his phone for a while, and when he couldn't find it, he started to annoy my mom and grandma to get his phone back. He even took my grandma's phone and started using it. A few minutes later, my mom started shouting at me to give his phone back, saying he was a child, and I'm acting childish as he wouldn't eat or get ready for his journey. My grandma asked him to apologize to me for what he did, but he said he did nothing wrong and will do it again. Also, I gave his phone back later and I've only hidden his phone for about an hour, and he did brush his teeth and ate later and then left. So, am I the a-hole in this situation? You hid his phone for 1 hour. He survived, and it's not petty when you hid his phone for an hour after you barely got any sleep, were extremely tired and were nothing but nice to him, and he threw water in your face twice to wake you up as a prank. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.